All right, Dustin. So it is just after 2 o'clock. Just say welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the evolution of data visualization with Dustin Cabral. He is a principal consultant with us at Clairtelligence. Big Tableau guy, big data guy. I'm surprised I'm not seeing the data hoodie today. I guess, you know. Oh, right. I understand. I see. So Dustin's going to give his talk. I think it's about 25-30 minutes. The second half of the webinar today, it'd be Q&A. You can send them in the chat directly to me or to everyone. Doesn't really make a difference to us, whatever you prefer. I'll read them out. Dustin will take your, and take a stab at giving you an answer, whether it's technical, historical, whatever it may be. Anything kind of goes. I think that's about everything. So Dustin, thank you for hooking us up today with this fun talk, and looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. Appreciate it. And like Pete mentioned, this one's going to be a little different than the original presentation format. I'm sporting my TEDx Bryant t-shirt today where this was originally presented. So in that format, we have 18 minutes to present and there's no Q&A. So we decided to run this presentation again, maybe slow it down a little bit so we don't have that 18-minute cutoff. And we open up the end for questions. So happy to have everybody here for that. All right, so let's get started and then we can talk about the evolution of data visualization. All right, so hello, my name is Dustin Cabral, and I'm here today to talk to you about the evolution of data visualization. So who am I? Well, the best way I can describe myself is as a storyteller. Sometimes that means presenting on important topics in front of large groups of like-minded data people like yourselves. Other times that means teaching students how to weave data stories in my e-learning courses. And I'm also storytelling at work by creating data-rich dashboards in my role as a consultant. And of course, on my YouTube channel, where I'm just starting to find my niche, which is mainly Nerf battle and Power Wheels racing videos. But sometimes it's really just about telling a story to those most important to you. So how did I get here? Let me give you a highly condensed version of the last 17 years of my life. In 2006, after tearing my ACL in a mosh pit, I know, hard to believe, I switched to a work-study job in the audiovisual department at Bryant University, where my risk of injury was much lower. I met a girl there who would later become my wife and the mom of our 2 kids. As you can tell here, it was a very nerdy romance. In 2009, I graduated from Bryant with a concentration in management, which is probably not the degree you were expecting, but analytics degrees didn't exist back then. After graduation, I landed a job at FGX International in the supply chain organization, working on a desktop computer, creating spreadsheets to forecast reading glass purchases from China. Next, I moved to Staples Inc., where I worked inside the merchandising analytics team. There, I analyzed competitive bids for multi-million-dollar categories like binders and paper and got my first taste of being a real analyst, pulling data, analyzing trends, and producing reports. Eventually, my wife convinced me to try a new data visualization tool that she had used while working at Bose called Tableau. I was immediately hooked on the beautiful visuals and ease of use that the modern dataviz tool provided, so much so that I did what most of you would do in this situation. I quit. And I went to EMC Dell, where I became a full-time Tableau developer. You see, Staples wasn't ready for a modern dataviz tool like Tableau yet, and I decided that I was. Now, about 10 months into that new role, Staples called me back and asked if I wanted to be Tableau lead for the whole company. Turns out they bought the platform and needed someone to take the reins. So I said yes, and I helped build out a dataviz community of thousands of engaged users and developers. Eventually, I wanted to bring my work to a broader user base, so I made the leap to consulting with Clarintelligence about 6.5 years ago, and it's been great. Since then, I haven't looked back, and I spread my enthusiasm about dataviz wherever I can. So what is data visualization exactly? Well, dataviz has evolved from a highly specialized practice to a democratized set of tools for the masses, and I'm here today to tell you two things. One, show you why dataviz has become one of humanity's greatest storytelling tools, and two, hopefully inspire and empower you to tell your own story through data visualization. For those of you who don't know, data visualization in its purest form is the graphical representation of information and data. Simply put, data visualization helps us better see and understand the data around us. So what does data viz look like? Well, there are thousands of ways to bring data to life, but it usually falls into three categories: tables, graphs, and maps. Visual analytics are used near universally in our modern lives. These tools are not just for experts, data people, and scientists. I can guarantee that everybody on this call uses data visualization every day, even if you don't realize it. You might be checking the weather on your phone, or you're looking at who viewed your profile on LinkedIn. Maybe you're package stocking your Amazon driver for that new pair of socks you bought on Black Friday, or you're looking at your Wordle score distribution. Maybe you're even getting a heart rate alert from your smartwatch, hopefully not around your Wordle score. Now, dataviz might sound like something modern or new, akin to data science or analytics or machine learning, but it's actually not a new concept. It actually started way back around 20 to 30,000 years ago when tools like the first paints and sharp edge stone tools were developed to convey information about the world around us. One of the first recorded instances of human visualization of information was found in the Ishago bone. This was a tallying stick carved into an animal bone around 20,000 years ago in Central Africa. Prior to this point, we discovered only cave paintings which told stories but lacked the data portion of the equation. Fast forward 15,000 years, and we saw the development of writing instruments, rulers, and the compass, which would significantly increase our ability to communicate information effectively and accurately. In 1800 BC, the Babylonians, who are renowned for their development of mathematical notation, visualized numbers and complex calculations on clay tablets. The Egyptians developed detailed topographical maps like the Turin Papyrus map in 1150 BC to aid in the excavation of sandstone blocks for statues and architecture. Jumping forward to the time period stretching between the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution, we see an abundance of innovation in tools that help drastically increase the precision and production of data visualization, including the printing press and the typewriter. In the 1850s, an English physician named John Snow plotted cholera case data onto a street map of London to determine the source of the outbreak. You can see the spike in cases at one point on Broad Street, centered around a single water pump. The pump was turned off after Snow's discovery, effectively ending the epidemic. Snow's work is often considered the founding event in the science of epidemiology. In 1869, French civil engineer Charles Menard combined statistics and cartography to create an amazing rendering of Napoleon's disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812. The map shows Napoleon's 500,000-man army marching east to Moscow, shown in brown, with the size of the army represented by the width of the line. You can see the black line as the army retreated, and it dwindles down to almost nothing by the time they made it home. Now, looking at the last 50 years or so, we see an explosion of data collection due to the development of the personal computer, database technology, and the internet. More data is created in one day now than over the course of hundreds of years in the past. This has given data visualization both new opportunities and challenges. Some great examples from this time period include this one from the Pew Research Center, highlighting the increasingly polarized political reality in America in dramatic fashion with modern distribution graphics. You can see the median Democrats and median Republicans diverging significantly over the last 20 or 30 years. The Wall Street Journal used this stunning heat map to display the real impact of vaccination against terrifying diseases like polio and measles. It's hard to argue with the results when they're displayed in such a clear and meaningful visual rather than just an abstract science journal. All of the examples I've just shown clearly illustrate the advancement of data visualization over time, but how can we really measure its progress? Each stage of its progress as a discipline can be broken down into 4 key factors: speed, data storage, automation, and accessibility. Speed reflects the speed with which visualizations can be created. Data storage relates to how much data can be used to create and support those visualizations. Automation relates to the degree with which visualizations can be automatically maintained or created, and accessibility pertains to how readily information can be shared with the greater population. Let's take a look at each of the factors over the 4 time periods we investigated in terms of data viz technology. In prehistory, between 30,000 and 10,000 years ago, we score low or very low in most categories. This is mostly due to the harsh nature of daily life during this time period, the crude tools that were being used, and scarce sharing of knowledge across different communities. Things get a little more exciting in ancient history with the advancements in recording of knowledge through writing utensils, stone tablets, as well as trade between cultures. This helped increase our status with respect to data storage and accessibility, but speed and automation pretty much remained at a standstill during this time period. Now, during the modern era, we see some real improvement across almost all areas. Speed of development, automation, and accessibility increases with the development of the printing press and the typewriter. Data storage improved with the development of magnetic storage tape for audio, video, and digital records. The digital age begins with the launch of mass-produced personal computers and expands exponentially with the development of the internet. The last 40 years has seen the largest growth across all 4 categories, with data storage, accessibility, and speed, making data visualizations a near universal piece of technology. So the examples shown clearly illustrate how data viz has impacted our world in the past, but what comes next might be the most important piece of its evolution. Put simply, humans are ill-equipped to handle the volume of information available in the digital age. The number of data bytes in our digital world is 40 times bigger than the number of stars in the observable universe. The only way humans can make use of this information is with the aid of more accessible, democratized set of analytic tools. Speaking of accessibility, have you ever thought about creating your own visualizations? Up until recently, there are barriers to doing this, but that's not really the case any longer. We now have a host of data visualization tools which are free to use. We have public and personal data, which is readily available, and we have low or no code interfaces, which allow anyone to better see and understand the data that's actually important to them. So I know I've given all these really cool examples of visualizations over the past few thousand years, all of these famous, amazing artists, but let's bring you down and give you a real life personal example from my own daily visualizations that I make. So some of you may recognize this chart if you have kids, but I'll explain it for everybody else. So this is a growth chart comparing a child's height and weight by age. It might not look like it by seeing me in this webinar, but clinically speaking, I'm about the size of a 14-year-old boy, according to this chart. Keeping that in mind, and the fact that our son was just shy of 6 pounds at birth, we were told to keep an eye on his food intake, his weight, and his diapers in the early months of his life. So I'd like to preface this next part by saying that our kids never really had a chance of avoiding what came next. Between my background in analytics and my wife being an actuarial math major at Bryant, nerdiness and overdoing it were kind of almost guaranteed. Anyway, off we went with the doctor's orders, and we naturally deferred to technology and found the easiest app that we could to track our son's bottle feedings and diapers. This one was a favorite, not only because of the little poop and pee widgets that we had on our phone for easy access, but also because it had a direct export button, a favorite in our household. So after recording every feed and diaper for the first 9 months, we dumped out the data, and behold, our feeds and excretion CSVs were like a gold mine of tiny due data, and I was ready to start making some charts. And there it was. The Callum Tracker 5000 was born. It had everything: a dynamic age and weight tracker, bottle ounces and feed time trends, and even annotations calling out outliers. You can see the peak and valley right in the middle. That's where we changed Callum's bottle over to medium flow nipples, which allowed him to eat faster. The time to feed dropped like crazy after we implemented that change, and you can see that in the visualization shown. Up at the top, you can see a valley. That's where we introduced solid foods to his diet. So many amazing insights that we were very excited the next time we went back to the doctor. The doctor couldn't believe it. I mean, literally, he kind of said, we really didn't need this much detail, Dustin. We just wanted to make sure that he was eating. I digress. But being the person that I am and the couple that we are, I decided that I really couldn't just stop right there, especially when we had our second son, Finton. So I did the exact same thing that we did for Callum. I recorded everything for the first 9 months and then did a quick comparison. Now, by looking at this quickly, you can tell that they were pretty much on par in terms of the number of bottles and ounces that they had, but in terms of speed to eat, Finton was a good deal quicker than Callum at eating his food. Diapers, on the other hand, well, let's just say that now I know that I have about a 25% chance of running into a poopy diaper in the first 9 months, and that Finton had a very healthy digestive system for the first couple weeks. So what now? Well, the modern world lets us share our stories in many ways through blogs, social media, and more. What I'm asking you to consider is, what story do you have to tell using data visualization? So how do you get started with that? Well, number one, get inspired by something you find interesting. It can be anything from food to music to politics, even babies. Number two, leverage a free tool, one of the modern democratized platforms like Tableau or Power BI, to kick off your visualizations. And number three, share and explore. Join a community of like-minded, data-driven individuals to grow and expand your knowledge. I suppose I'll end by giving you a challenge. I challenge you to go and create a data visualization of your own. Don't overthink it, just make something, anything using data viz. You're a storyteller too, you just might not realize it yet. All right, thanks guys. Pete, let's see what we have in terms of questions.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, if there are any questions, by all means, shoot them over to me in the chat. The last time Brian and I did one of these, it did take a little while. So I think people might be processing a diaper chart that they weren't, anticipating, but
I mean, it's
it could be.
Not every day you see a diaper chart, just saying.
It's true.
And it really can be about anything, including, anything data viz wise, or my career journey, or even anything about the visualizations that I made about my kids. Feel free to ask any of those questions, because they're really all relevant in the scheme of things with the evolution of data viz. Data viz is a rapidly changing industry. There's a lot to it, much more than what I just showed in the last 18 minutes or so. And I'd be happy to kind of explain or explore any of those things from my perspective.
Oh, here we go. Let me just open these up a little.
Sure. I got to quickly compare and contrast Tableau and Power BI for us. I can give something high level for you for that. I would say they are really, really good, and they are the market leaders. I'm, of course, partial to Tableau because it is my tool of choice, right? I would say that if you pick either one, you really can't go wrong, generally. But I would say that Tableau has an advantage in its customizability, its ability to create custom visualizations and very curated content. I would say Power BI has an advantage. Being in the Microsoft stack is just a good advantage for it, as well as its data modeling skills are a little bit better than Tableau at this point. So definitely some pluses and minuses with both, but you really can't go wrong choosing either one currently, because they really are the market leaders.
All right, we got one here. Could you speak for a bit about the experience of going back to Staples to stand up their Tableau environment?
Sure. Yeah, that's a favorite topic of mine. So yeah, I mean, when I left Staples to go to EMC, they were just starting to investigate Tableau. And when I had asked the BI team, what tool are you guys going to go with? They were still in the evaluation phase, which I knew would take at least 6 months. And it wasn't guaranteed that they were going to use Tableau. So I left knowing that it was a possibility, but I really wanted to continue that journey right away. Coming back, the platform had just been stood up before I came back. So we really only had a couple hundred users, and Staples was a very lean organization. So like much of the organization and how it's run, the entire Tableau deployment was really owned and operated by just a handful of people, myself, my manager, a couple admins, and then largely the rest of the Tableau deployment was really organized around the Tableau community. We had a lot of business-led site admins, which really helped. And I helped build out a lot of the community portions that were vital to keeping that deployment alive, because it really was business driven. There wasn't a huge IT team behind it. All of the development work was within the business, and I was really championing the tool, enabling people with training, connecting people to share best practices, and allowing them to kind of manage the environment themselves. So it was really, really good experience. And after being a consultant after that for 6.5 years, there's lots of different ways that Tableau is deployed. Sometimes it is business driven, sometimes it is IT driven and more restrictive, but higher quality data sets are provided up front and things like that. So there's a lot of ways that it is deployed. So I can say that it's pretty versatile depending on the organization you're in.
So we got one question that says, how do you use languages like Python in your day-to-day, or are you almost exclusively in Tableau or other biz software?
Yep. So I am not a coder. So I typically don't use code in most of my work. I will use tools like Alteryx, Tableau Prep, Tableau, more of the business-facing dev tools. And a lot of the reason for that is I'm very business facing in my engagements with our customers. So I'll be placed directly within the business, and I'll be helping other analysts within the client get skilled up on specific tools. So, it's a little bit harder to do and a little less accessible when you're using, Python or R or anything like that. Just because it's a little harder for a regular analyst to get up and running with a full language like that. Tableau is a little bit easier to learn off the go. It's a lot of GUIs, a lot of right clicking, and not a lot of code. So it's a little easier for a broad spectrum of individuals with different backgrounds to use off the bat. Although I recognize that Python and other languages are super powerful. It's just a little bit harder for the day-to-day analyst to use and get up and running with.
Awesome. How have you seen Tableau change over these last couple of years?
Sure. I definitely say that as the desktop application, there's definitely been a lot of improvements with what it can do in terms of level of detail calculations. The data modeling has gotten much better. Autosave has been a lifesaver. There's been a lot of changes over the last 8-9 years that I've been using the tool. I would say the biggest changes have really come in the server platform. So there's a really much more robust platform. Originally, Tableau Server, when I started with it in 2014, it was really just a place to house dashboards and there wasn't a lot to it. Now there's a lot around data lineage and a ton of stuff around curated data sources, which is super helpful from a metadata management perspective and from sort of an overall organizational perspective. So it's much more robust. I find the server platform is really top tier now. And now they're expanding more into data integration with Tableau Prep and with the sort of machine learning aspects from some of the things that Salesforce is bringing with Einstein.
We got one question here that says, I really like your attention to being a storyteller and being an artist to explain insights about data. What kind of things do you do with leadership teams that are making report requests and getting that data to bringing that data to insights as data consumers via a story?
Sure.
Sure.
Yep. I think one of the advantages to sort of taking the storytelling angle, and this may not be like fully best practice, right? Because a lot of times you're told to gather requirements, right? And then create a dashboard or a report based on those requirements. I find that I like taking less direction on concrete things that the business actually wants to or thinks they want to see, right? And I like asking them questions about what they do and what information they need to go, create business action. And I ask a lot of those questions, and then I'll ask a lot of questions around how their metric works, the nuts and bolts of, their measures and their data and what grain it's at and stuff like that. But I leave the middle part out. So I don't ask them like what they want to see necessarily. I go to both other ends. I ask the nuts and bolts of the technical data details. And then I ask the other end of the spectrum of like, what do you actually do with it? And I leave, how does it get there to me? And I come up with visualizations based on those two pieces. And that gives them more of a blank slate when they see it for the first time, right? Because they may have preconceived notions of how they might want to see that data. But I take my experience from what we've done with clients and I apply that to that middle layer, and I get the key pieces of information that they're really experts in, right? And I apply them that way. So I kind of go about it a roundabout way, but I find that it makes the first iteration much more impactful, and then we can iterate further on it from there. But I try not to take too much direction from what they already have or what they think they might need. And I ask more of those questions to get to the answer.
Cool. I'm going to combine two questions here, and I think I'm going to show my hand a little bit of being the marketing guy that is not a Tableau or dataviz guy. But can you compare what I'm going to say is called ClickView with Power BI, Tableau, and Looker?
Sure. I would say Tableau and Power BI, I would call them the market leaders. Looker, I would say, is an up and comer. It's more valuable for like smaller, more agile deployments with maybe probably less users. It is great for those who know how to code. I mean, even just SQL is fine with Looker. Their modeler is pretty responsive to just knowing that. It's a slight variation on that flavor. ClickView, I would say it's one of the stronger tools in terms of data modeling, but they've really lagged behind on the visualization piece and on some of their kind of server components. So they were really neck and neck with Tableau and Power BI for a while, but I feel like they've fallen off a bit. Looker, I think, is still more of a niche solution, although they were acquired by Google. So I expect them and their tech to be around for a while. But that's sort of like my high level perspectives. I still would put Power BI and Tableau first, ClickView and Looker kind of on that next tier, with Looker probably gaining traction and ClickView losing some traction.
All right, here's one that resonates with me personally. Any tips for the artistically challenged data enthusiast?
I
Is there
actually,
a stick figure mode in Tableau by any chance?
I would say I am artistically challenged with my hands with normal art. Although I do like doing like little projects for my kids, but they're not super hard critics on me. But for those who have trouble sort of getting inspired and creating visuals, the gallery on Tableau Public, they revamped it a couple months ago, and it is much better than it used to be. So I would go to public.tableau.com, check out the gallery there. They actually have everything organized by type now on that main page. And if you go to business dashboards, right, those are the ones that are more akin to your regular work dashboards. I'd highly recommend going there and honestly just getting inspired and using getting inspired, right? Like use those visualizations that people have already created and use them as like a baseline, a template, inspiration for you to get started, right? So a lot of things don't just spring up sort of out of my head when I'm creating them. It's not like divine artistic intervention with my dashboards. Like I see a lot of dashboards publicly within clients, and I take bits and pieces of those and I create something from that. So I would say that would be a great place to start. Another great complementary tool to any data viz tool, honestly, is Figma. And it's a really great place to do mockups, to do background templates for dashboards. I used to use PowerPoint, which was great, but Figma allows me to have a much bigger canvas and do some things that I really can't do in PowerPoint. So I use Figma a lot. It's free. There's a really robust free version that you can use there. So highly recommend that tool as a good complementary tool for artistic stuff.
All righty. Can you connect Tableau to different, or can Tableau connect to different data sources at the same time?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It can connect to a lot at the same time. I mean, some of my workbooks at clients are pushing like 20, 25 data sources at a time.
Wow.
And they can be connected to, you know, a whole myriad of different data sources for your dashboards. You always want to consider performance, accessibility, things like that while you're doing those sorts of things. But there's a lot of possibilities with what Tableau can do.
When you find yourself having to choose between Tableau Prep and Alteryx, how do you make that call?
I would say, so if you're just starting out and you're looking at a blank slate between those two, if your company already has Tableau Prep, it's probably included in your creator licenses, right? As long as it's activated within your deployment of Tableau. So it may be the cheaper option for you. I would say Tableau Prep can do all of the most common data prep actions that you may run into, right? Alteryx is much more extensible. So it can do a lot of things on the other end, a lot of complex things, APIs, web data connectors. It can do machine learning, a whole lot of stuff that Tableau Prep just doesn't do. Tableau Prep isn't for that. Tableau Prep is for, you know, the 100 most common data prep actions that you perform on a regular basis. And Alteryx can do pretty much anything in the data prep space. So that's the real difference. Alteryx is a little more expensive per license, but it's likely that less people will need to use a tool like Alteryx than those who would be using Tableau Prep.
Cool. You know, you've mentioned leaning on the community and Tableau Public. We have one question is, you know, do you have a recommended learning path for upcoming data visualization people?
Sure.
And what skills are the most relevant to know in that field?
Yeah, and I guess we can drop it in the chat if you can find it, Pete. There's another one on our Clear Intelligence YouTube where I talk about like becoming a data visualization professional. If you want to drop that in the chat, so there's a separate.
Sure.
We're backlinking now. There's a separate video that we talk all about how to become sort of a data visualization developer and what you need to do there. I would say that There's two things I recommend, and I recommended in that video. So first is to specialize in something, and second is to just have a general knowledge of a bunch of things, right? So the specialization helps you concentrate on sort of one or two things, so you can get pretty skilled up on them. So for me, those things were really Tableau and Alteryx when I was first getting started. So that covered sort of data visualization and some, front-facing ETL type tools. I got pretty good at both of those tools, good enough that I was better than kind of most in just their regular jobs, which led to me being a consultant. But I also needed sort of general knowledge on a bunch of other things, how databases work, SQL code, how companies sort of deploy architectures. I knew a little bit about a lot of different things, and then I specialized in one or two areas. You'll get a lot of comments and insights around you should know these 10 technologies, or you'll be applying to jobs and it lists out a ridiculous amount of skills that you have to have, to the point where you really can't be an expert in all those things. And if you're just a generalist and you have no specialization, it can be hard to stand out. It can be hard to kind of blow people away. So I would say that specializing in a couple things and having a broad knowledge on a few other things is really good. But you really can't go wrong with knowing SQL and knowing at least one data visualization tool, and then having a general knowledge of pretty much, the broad spectrum of data analytics.
We have one question is, so you've taken all of those, those steps along the path to becoming a professional Viz consultant. What type of assignments do you get to work on now?
Sure. Yeah. So it kind of ranges, and my role at Cleartelligence is a little bit different. So I'm like data visualization lead for our company, but that basically means that I do regular billable client work, which is similar to what any other sort of analyst or developer would do with a tool like Tableau at a company. So I'll work on strategic projects where I'll be building dashboards, or I'll be doing Alteryx flows to support data sources or dashboards. So I do that regular sort of building work, and I work on cooperative teams, work in an agile methodology, all those things. But I also do work as a Tableau doctor at clients. So I'll take questions from the community. I'll do trainings. So I'll run trainings to help people learn the tool and skill up on it. And I also do sort of public facing work too. So this webinar is one of those things, but we also have really great events like Chart Champ. Here's my plug for Chart Champ in the fall. That's in September at Fenway in Boston, where we get to sort of experience the broader data analytics community. So I do a lot of different things, but I do split my time between sort of regular billable building data visualization resources for clients and doing sort of more fun public exposure type things.
Any hints on what your future Maven analytics courses will focus on?
Nice. Yeah. I don't know. I'm on a little bit of a sabbatical because I feel like I rounded out like a nice set of things there. I may have to do some updates to some things next year because it's been a little bit. It's the trouble with the technologies that keeps advancing, but it might be something around some complementary tools that I mentioned on this call. So we'll see.
Are there any sites that you'd recommend to stay current on how things are changing so frequently?
Yeah, I would say surprisingly Twitter. So I know that Twitter has its pluses and minuses, but honestly, it's the fastest way that I get news, both regular news and kind of data viz news. So I would start, depending on the tool you're into, you can start with that. Tableau has a really good community on Twitter that's always really active. But once you start following a community like that, you'll get complementary communities, which are talking about sort of the latest and greatest tools and things like that. So combination of Twitter and then partially LinkedIn are both good things. I also stay up to date on anything interesting coming out from the major conferences like the Tableau conference, Alteryx, Inspire, Snowflake conference. So different things like that I'll take bits and pieces of it. If people do summaries of those and I can't attend, I'll definitely check those out as well.
Cool. I think I've made my way through the bulk of them. We can, if anyone has anything else, we're happy to hang out and answer questions. Dustin, I don't know, when I made you the host, I think I lost the ability to put up the poll. I don't know if you can hit send on that. That's maybe a conversation starter. It's just about the ancient viz thing that I, as a history nerd, I found that, really fascinating.
Yeah, there's some more questions I can kind of rattle through, I think. Let me see. Looks like, yeah, you combine some of these. So what's your advice for someone looking to enter the industry, skills, portfolio, resume? Yeah, so that YouTube link that Pete put in, that you on sort of growing your skill set, that'll be really helpful if you want to check that out. But there's some advice in there on sort of creating a portfolio, having both a specialized skill set and a general skill set. Your portfolio itself with tools like Tableau, like Tableau especially has the public app, which is free, which is an awesome place to put your portfolio. But I'd even recommend, just creating a basic website on Wix and putting some things on there. I am by no means a website developer, and I have my own little homegrown website, which, fun fact, I've held on to the domain name Dustin Cabral for the past 20 years for no reason other than I thought I'd do something with it eventually. And now I just have basically my portfolio on it. So even just standing up something little like that, where you can link to your LinkedIn and some of your public work and anything that you've sort of recorded and put out there, is a really good thing to have. I think it's almost more impactful than having a good resume, although that's always good to have. I think people like to see your work and sort of your involvement in the community, anything that you're doing there. Just coalescing it in one space makes it really easy for people to get a vibe on, how active you are, what your skill sets are, and sort of what you like to create.
Cool. One other one I saw, and you sort of touched on this with ClickView, but non-Power BI or Tableau options out there. Do you see any other like third to market type of possibilities?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some smaller tools out there that I've used in the past. I mean, probably number 3 is Looker right now. And they come in kind of waves. And from what we've seen, business intelligence comes in like 20 or 25 year waves. And it might not feel like it because you always feel like, oh, there's a new tool coming out sort of every day. But there's really just like classes of tools that come out in waves. The last wave was all, business objects and Cognos, tools like that. So there was a set, prior to Tableau and Power BI and ClickView. And there's definitely differences between them, and each wave gets sort of better and better. I think the next wave, there's going to be really more of an emphasis on sort of prescriptive analytics, some machine learning, some pieces like that try and serve up data to you automatically, right? Give you insights. But I don't think we're to the point where I won't have a job making visualizations anymore, although I have to be on the lookout for that over the next like 15 years or so, because you never know what's going to happen.
It's an interesting question. What pointers should people keep in mind to get rid of the clutter in dataviz, provide the maximum information and insights?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I actually sometimes do a presentation around data visualization best practices. And for avoiding clutter, I do recommend this method, which I call cut until it breaks. So if you have a dashboard, try and remove pieces of it until it no longer communicates the information that you're looking to communicate. And I don't mean just wholesale remove visualizations. I mean, cut the clutter within the visualizations if you can, down until you just have sort of like the bare bones. You might need to add some stuff back, but really take sort of a critical look at it and remove things, especially, things like filters. Those don't necessarily need to go away, but you can hide them right in a container and only show them when they need to be. I like to say that anything that isn't the most important piece that somebody should see right away, you need to put away in a tooltip or in a drill down visualization that's not on the same page. So, anything that's not super vital, put it in a tooltip, put it in a drill down page, and try and keep your visualizations to a minimum. There's pluses and minuses to having 10 visualizations on a page, but try and keep it to a handful. Cut things down until it seems manageable, and you can always add things back in if you cut too much.
Cool. Well, I think that is about it. We can hang out for a minute if there's any, late questions before we take off for the day. But, thanks everyone for joining and participating with us today. I hope you enjoyed Dustin's talk. You can catch it on YouTube as well. This video will be posted, either later tonight or tomorrow morning. Oh, geez, we have a big time question here.
Latecomer,
All right.
Favorite ice cream flavor? Oh man,
Choose wisely.
I'm gonna say cookie dough, although there is a graham cracker crunch ice cream at a local ice cream place near my house, which is just amazing. It's graham cracker ice cream, and it's got like crunchy toffee in it. It's pretty legit.
Nice. Hot ice cream takes flowing in.
Oh man, we should have done the presentation on ice cream. Just saying.
Right. Did you here? I'll close with one of my own. Is did you see Brian's Pac-Man viz the other day?
Absolutely amazing. You should put the link in for that one. Brian Moore is on our team. He's a Tableau visionary. He's amazing. You really need to check out his stuff. So definitely check it out. Pete will put the link in here or send it out. But Brian Moore, check him out on the Tableau public gallery. Also, if you're going ahead and joining that Twitter crew, which is #DataFam, #Tableau, he puts his stuff on there as well as others. But really, really awesome stuff.
Yeah, I think Brian might actually be a wizard.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's unconfirmed, but it's as close as it gets.
All right, I'm looking for that link. But all right, that looks like that's about it. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Dustin, for the presentation. Like I said, we'll put this up on YouTube tonight or sometime tomorrow morning. Thanks everyone for being here, and look out for Chart Champ coming up in the fall, and hopefully we'll see you all there in person.
Awesome. Thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, folks.
See ya.